Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, the Mandarin. Welcome back to another episode of TNT Daily Report. First news today. The first news today is regarding the Chinese defect doctor Li Mengyan. Oh, I'm sorry, Yan Limong, publishing a scientific article on Twitter today exposing the true origin of the coronavirus. Let's look at some details.
Chinese Dr. Li Mengyan posted a science article on Twitter which revealed accumulated evidence pointing to unusual features of SARS-CoV-2 genome, suggesting sophisticated laboratory modification rather than natural evolution and the delineation of its probable genetic root. In this report, it described the genomic, structural, medical, and literature evidence, which when considered together strongly contradicts the natural origin theory. The evidence shows that SARS-CoV-2 should be a laboratory product created by using bat coronaviruses, ZC45 and or ZXC21, as a template or backbones. Building upon the evidence, the scientist team further postulates a genetic root for SARS-CoV-2, demonstrating that the laboratory creation of this coronavirus is convenient and can be accomplished in approximately 6 months. From a public health perspective, these actions are necessary as knowledge of the origin of SARS-CoV-2 and of how the virus entered the human population are of a pivotal importance in the fundamental control of the COVID-19 pandemic as well as in preventing similar further pandemics.
Thank you very much for the reporting. Next news. Is the space race between the United States and China kicking into high gear? China has started to launch rockets off a floating spaceport as an alternative from land-based launching. Let's look at some details.
China's largest defense contractor, China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, is currently developing a floating spaceport, the Eastern Aerospaceport, to launch its rockets off the coast of the city of Haiyang, according to Universe Today. Wang Xiaojun, the head of an academy under the contractor, noted that there was substantial construction progress being made at the port. Space News reported that a second launch from sea will likely occur before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you very much for the reporting. Another news regarding rockets in China. Is China a paper tiger or the real deal? Chinese rocket army conducting numerous drills recently but did not fire a single missile. Let's look at some details.
The various departments of the CCP rocket force have been conducting relatively intensive combat readiness port drills for several days. From the public information of the CCP has released, the drill mainly focused on subjects such as road maneuvering and camouflage, railroad loading and unloading transport formations, communication support, position survey, field campaign, chemical defense, and decontamination operations. Did not see its main equipment missiles test firing and other subjects of the exercise project. During a recent exercise of the CCP rocket army fired 4 Dongfeng series tactical ballistic missiles, but only 2 of them fell into predetermined area, while the other 2 deviated severely from their intended impact point and failed in their launch mission. In the immediate aftermath, the CCP space launch activities also suffered a series of mission failures and other accidents. The rocket did not carry their payloads into the orbit as planned. It is well known that almost all the launch vehicles used in the Chinese space launch missions were modified from the ballistic missiles used by the CCP rocket force. The Dongfeng series of the ballistic missiles, the flagship of the CCP rocket force, have suffered a series of launch failures. Since the CCP virus has spread worldwide terror, the international community has been very concerned about vicious acts of the CCP. The international community has become more and more awake to the evil deeds of the CCP. Collective sanctions have been imposed on the CCP, restricting the export of high precision and other related technologies and equipment to the CCP. Under such circumstances, it is highly likely that the ballistic computer chips and navigation components of the CCP rocket army will suffer from technical failures and upgrade failures.
Thank you very much for the reporting. As the CCP are arming up China, that puts the relationship between the United States and China into a more dangerous situation. Recently, the ambassador from the United States to China is ending its career and have an early resigned. Is this the end of US-China relationship? Let's look at some details.
Mike Pompeo announced on Monday that Trump's ambassador to China, Terry Branstad, is going to step down before November's presidential election amid high tensions between the two countries. Particularly ahead of the election, cutting Branstad's time in Beijing short is perplexing. With no replacement announced, it risks leaving the post vacant until after the inauguration. The reason behind his resignation still remains unclear.
Thank you very much for the report. As the US media have begun to hyper-focus on election issues and trying to stop Trump from winning, on the other side of the Pacific, the Chinese Communist Party crackdown on Hong Kongers continues. Let's look at some details.
Chinese authorities have confirmed the criminal detention of 12 Hong Kongers who were allegedly attempting to travel illegally to Taiwan by boat last month. 12 people, aged 16 to 33, were under compulsory criminal detention in accordance with Chinese law for illegally crossing the border, according to a statement released Sunday from the Public Security Bureau in Shenzhen. The statement was the first formal announcement from Chinese authorities that the 12 would likely face criminal charges, some of whom were linked to the anti-government protest movement in the city last year. The 12 were believed to be traveling to the self-ruled island of Taiwan, a popular choice among protesters who have chosen to leave Hong Kong since the passage of the new national security law in June. Critics say the Hong Kong law is Beijing's clearest attempt to erase a legal firewall between the semi-autonomous territory and the mainland's authoritarian Communist Party system. The detained were appointed lawyers chosen by Chinese authorities and were denied medical attention and right to contact their families. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a statement Friday that the US is deeply concerned over the arrest of the 12 people, whom he called democracy activists.
All right, thank you very much for the reporting. That's all of the news we have for you today. Tune in once again tomorrow at the same time, and don't forget to leave a comment, like, and share your thoughts regarding today's news. We will see you next time. Bye bye.